Hello people, Daniel from Devil & Sons Guitars here, and I'm so excited to share with you episode 2 of Luthiers Lunch Break, the YouTube show for guitar building enthusiasts. Hello, welcome. So for those of you that watched last week, it's going to be a similar format, but with some new contributors this week. We've got some people carrying on with their series from last time, and some people that maybe you've never heard of before. For those of you that are new to the show, don't worry, I've left links in the description to the playlist where you can catch up on past episodes and subscribe for future episodes. Essentially what you're going to see is a series of segments provided by different contributors that include luthiers, guitar makers, guitar players, general guitar enthusiasts, people that build things that are sort of connected to guitars but aren't guitars themselves. And possibly even you, because if you've been enjoying this show, I'm always looking for new contributors. So just send me a message if you've got an idea. Just going to remind you that in the description of this video, there are links to all the different contributors. And I really highly recommend you click on those links and follow their social media channels. They're providing their content for free. And if they're like me, just knowing people are watching, just hearing from people makes it all worthwhile. Anyway, enough chatting for me. We're going to start off with a continuation of 2 series from the last episode. Lars Grape talking about guitar design, and Cade from Ravencroft Guitars continuing with his exploration of how we design with accessibility in mind.
My name is Lars, and today we're going to see how to start creating the project. In today's video, we're going to focus on the neck. First thing that you will need is a piece of paper. Sorry guys, I want to show you the actual hand drawing, but the recording didn't come out great and it's not very clear what I'm doing, so I have to move to the computer. I will use Illustrator now to show how to draw a full-on plan, but the steps are basically the same as if you're using pencil and paper, so just follow this and you will be able to do it. Now, first thing that you need to do is draw a center line. The center line is your guideline throughout the entire project. Then you measure something like 15 centimeters from one edge of the paper and you draw a perpendicular line right here. This line is centered with the center line, and its measure are the distance between your lower and higher string plus 8 millimeters. You can find this information pretty easily. For example, here, this is the bridge that I want to purchase, and the distance here between the higher and lower string is right down here, which is 52.5 millimeters, and I need to add 8 millimeters. Now that you have this line, you have to calculate the scale length, which in my case is 25.5 inches or 64.8 centimeters. And I will draw from this line another line perpendicular to the center line, and this is the width of the net. To draw this, you need the distance of your higher and lower string at the net plus 8 millimeters. Now we connect this point, and so you have one line and one line. These are the edge of my fingerboard. Now we need to find the start and the end of the fingerboard. Now for the start of the fingerboard, I just take this, which corresponds to the 0 fret or the nut position, and I added 5 millimeters. Here it is. And to find the end of the fretboard, you need to take the last fret that you want to put, which usually is the 20, 22 or 24 frets. In this case, it's the 24 frets plus 5 millimeters, because remember that you need some space to actually mount that fret. So in my case, to find this position, you just need to use a fretboard calculator. In this case, I use the Stiina, and you can find it online. It's pretty easy, it's free. You just need to put the number of frets, your scale length, select millimeter or inches if you want in inches, and it will tell you the distance of each fret from the net. So in my case, the 24 frets is at 486 millimeters. So if I did 5 millimeters is 491 millimeters, and then I have the end of the fretboard, and now I have to eliminate this line and this line, leaving me with a complete fretboard and the position of the bridge. In the next episode, we're going to see how to draw the body and what are the important parts that you need to consider when drawing a body.
Hey folks, Cade here from Ravencroft Guitars, and welcome to Luthiers Lunchtime, where we're talking about accessibility in guitars and guitar building. Last time we talked about the body shape as a whole and making sure that it fits the needs of the person that you're building for, whether that is fitting into a confined space or the positioning on their body, how it's going to sit, or making sure that your weight layout is in a way that allows it to be stable without the use of all the limbs that we take for granted as able-bodied people. Today I want to talk a little bit about a fairly simple customization option that I don't see a lot of in guitar building, but also I didn't think about until I had already changed the body shape. And that is the positioning of your control knobs. Typically you have your bridge and then your control knobs go right here, so it's all kind of in one, I don't know what you would describe this as, one circular trajectory, so that it's all kind of here. I ran into the issue of, while taking this big cutaway, I could no longer put the control cavity where it should be, and by putting it here, it was in the way of playing for Brendan. So what I did was I moved it up more towards the lower horn of the guitar. One of the accessibility issues that Brendan has is that with his cerebral palsy, his left hand is significantly weaker and is unable to articulate notes and things with his fingers. So we had to make it a left-handed guitar, but also for contributing towards controlling the knobs and switches and everything, he didn't have the mobility in his left hand to be able to do that with the strumming hand. He was basically hold a pick and strum from the elbow, but unable to move the fingers and the wrist in a way that was conducive to doing that. By moving it here, he was able to really quickly make the adjustments with the fretting hand, which is not the way that we typically play a guitar. But we had to make that kind of consideration for him. With that in mind, it doesn't necessarily need to be to the lower horn, but we can, as guitar builders, put the control knobs pretty much wherever we want them. If there was necessity for it, we could put the controls on the back of the guitar if we really needed to. If that's what was conducive to the person being able to play. We could take our controls and put them up top if the person has issues with their elbow where they can't extend all the way down. Say they have some kind of joint issue, or they have some sort of prosthetic that makes it difficult for them to have a full range of motion. We could take our controls and put them up top here where you can play with them easily with the arm not being fully extended or not being as mobile as possible. Being able to control things from the fretting hand, again, is an option that is totally possible. It didn't really make any more effort for me other than just putting them where they needed to go. In terms of routing out a cavity, it didn't make a difference. In terms of drilling my holes, it didn't make a difference. I had to think about doing a front-mounted jack because we couldn't have the cord running into the wheels of his wheelchair. So we had to do a front-mounted jack, but that was just a consideration that it changed the type of jack I was using, but it didn't make any more work for me. Again, it's one of those things where you need to think about the individual's needs and then just kind of work around them. As the builder, very seldom does it make a whole lot of extra work for us. It's the same process, just in a different location of the guitar. So next time you're building a guitar for somebody, whether they have mobility needs or not, think about why you're putting the controls where they are. Are you just doing it because that's the way that it's always been done? Or can it be tweaked in a way that is more beneficial to the player and makes it easier for them physically? So, something to consider. Next time we will start talking about the neck and things that we can do with the neck to make it more accessible for people who are differently able than ourselves.
Great stuff. So now we're going to carry on with a section that I really like, which is focused on tools and materials, equipment, basically budget things that you can use to help with your guitar building. So I'm going to hand over to Chris from Garland Stringed Instruments, followed by Curtis from Goth Rider Creations and Stiina from Goddess Guitars.
Hello everybody, I'm Chris Garland and I've been building acoustic instruments here in my garage for the last 10 years. I started making a list a while ago, a few years ago, of everyday objects which I find useful in the workshop. And I did this with the view to making a video sometime, just in case it was useful to anybody else, and to encourage some kind of discussion and input from other people. But then with Daniel's great idea of Luthiers Lunch Break, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to, and the perfect platform to present this this idea. Little 3-minute videos, that would be time to present a few objects. I actually lost the list I made years ago, God knows how. Anyway, I'm trying to recreate it. So I thought now I'd take time out of the chaos, which is my great guitar build-off instrument for 2023, and just take a bit of time to make a quick video, the first in a series, I hope. I don't want this to be just my ideas. I'd like to stimulate discussion, and if anybody has input, their own ideas along these lines, objects which you wouldn't perhaps normally find in a workshop, but which are nevertheless useful, then please put them in the comments below, or make your own video on the same topic. That would be great, and I'm sure Daniel would be very happy to have somebody else's ideas as well as mine. So the first one I've got for you is this old table knife, which actually belonged to my parents. I think it was part of a set, but this is the only one left. It was given to them as a wedding present, so it's about 100 years old. Made in Sheffield steel, and it is really, really good steel. It's very thin. I've sharpened it, so it's not razor sharp, but it's actually pretty sharp. But I use it all the time. It's incredibly useful for getting under things, if you're trying to pry a glue joint apart, or alternatively for spreading things like filler paste or anything that needs to be pushed into a hole or a cavity. The steel's very springy. It's just got 1,001 uses, and I recommend if you ever see something like this at a garage yard sale or a car boot sale or something, pick one up, because I'm sure you'll find 1,000 uses for it as well. The second one I've got is just an ordinary pencil eraser, which I use as a sanding block for curved surfaces, particularly inside curves. The reason is that this little slope on the end is very good at following upward curves at the end of its travel. So, for example, on a guitar neck where you have the transition between the end of the neck and the headstock, you can be sanding, and this will, just the end bit here where it's a little more squashy than the rest, will follow if there's a volute, for example, it will follow that curve very nicely. So it's just a very good thing for smoothing out inside curves. It's just the right amount of flexibility. This one's actually getting old. I might have to, give the cat another canary and go and buy a new one. But it's great. It's a very useful sanding block for inside curves. It will also do outside, of course, as well, but it's mainly useful for inside curves. And actually I have several other sanding blocks made from odd materials which will feature in forthcoming episodes, I think. And the last one for today, because that's all we've got time for, I've spent so long introducing the subject, hopefully I'll pack a few more into future episodes. Anyway, the last one is actually right behind me here. It's using, this is the boiler for the house, so the hot water tank, and it has a steel outer casing, and I use magnets to hold stuff onto it. I keep all the most used tools here. So, for example, the table knife I showed as number 1 is right here, within arm's reach. I have measuring tools, a saw, scissors. Well, you can see for yourselves what's here. But basically these are the tools which I use all the time, every day. And they're, you know, I can easily put them away when I finish with them, which in fact doesn't stop my workshop being a complete pigsty. But anyway, at least some of the tools are out of the way. And sometimes the tool is actually the magnet is embedded in the tool itself. This is a little glue scraper I made out of a lollipop stick, and I've got a tiny neodymium magnet buried in there, so I can just clap it back on there and it's there ready for me next time. So there we are, magnets and a steel wall for a tool wall. Oh, and I forgot to point out that the other thing I keep on the wall here is some information sheets. I'll bring the camera in just to give you a very quick look. So here you can see I've got a couple of information sheets on different equivalencies of sandpaper grits, because sometimes you know, for example, the micromesh pads, this is kind of normal sandpaper but in the American and European system. And then most importantly for me, every build I do, I have my Excel note sheet of all the important dimensions and sizes and angles and everything else, which I can refer to while I'm during the build, you know, while I'm actually at work. So it's very practical. Well, that's all for this time. I'll see you again in the next episode. Until then, goodbye for now.
Hi everyone, Curtis here from Goth Rider Creations, and welcome to the first episode of How to Make Your Own Lutherie Tools on the Cheap. Now today we're going to be making bench cookies, and for this you're going to need one scrap piece of timber, a circular object to draw around, and a pencil to enable you to draw around it. First, draw around the object. Next, get out your hole saw set, select the correct hole saw for the application, attach it to your drill, and drill out the piece of wood. If you don't have a hole saw, get your jigsaw out and cut neatly around the circle. If you don't have a jigsaw, take out your wood saw and cut multiple times as close to the line as possible. If you don't have a wood saw, buy a wood saw. Once you've cut your circle, sand the edges to get rid of any splinters. If you happen to have a random orbital sander, use that. It makes life a lot easier. Now you have your perfect circle, now you need to add some foam. I'm using floor mat foam because it has a nice texture to it and I have a metric ton of it. Use your pencil and then mark out 2 circles. Then take your extremely sharp craft knife and cut out the circles. If you don't happen to have a craft knife, use mental telepathy and some video editing software and cut out the circles that way. Sand off the edges so the foam is nice and smooth. Then take out your contact adhesive and spray 2 light coats, making sure it dries in between. Always make sure that you cover your workbench so there's no overspray. Once it goes tacky, press all of the foam and the wood together until it's well bonded. Next, take out your masking tape and protect all of the foam. Then take out your favourite spray paint and paint 2 heavy coats onto the wooden section. Carefully remove your masking tape, and there you have it. One professional looking bench cookie. No one would ever know you made it yourself. Put your guitar on it and done. And there you are. See you next time.
If you're like me, you go to the craft store and look for things to utilize in your guitar making. And I love these alcohol inks, but they are super expensive for a teeny amount. And I go through alcohol inks like nobody's business. This is a half an ounce, and you're spending almost $12 on 3 of these bottles. So we get some alcohol, 91% isopropyl rubbing alcohol, some Sharpie marker packs, and some glass mason jars, and we're going to make our own for a fraction of the price. So first, you want to separate your colors into what you want. And once you've separated them, then what you're going to do is you're going to break them open and take the guts out. So you just put those in the jar. Don't forget to take the nibs out of the tips as well. Why I like this is because you can use a multitude of different colors to make a variety of different colors at a fraction of the cost. So this cost me about $25 for all of the supplies, and I am going to be making approximately 3 to 4 ounces of alcohol ink in each color. So right off the bat, I'm saving a ton of money, and this stuff doesn't go bad. So you can make it and then just use it when you want to. You want to let those nibs sit in the alcohol at least 24 hours. And then we came back the next day and look at these colors. And we're going to just swatch them on a piece of scrap wood to see if they're ready to use. And if not, you just give it a little extra time. So we're going to start out with the lightest blue, which is really pretty. And then we're just going lightest to darkest. And that intensity is really awesome. And what I love about these two is you can really load on the color, and it's thin enough that you can continue to put on more color and work with it. But if you get too heavy, you can also use regular 91% isopropyl alcohol to push color out of the wood as well. And you can see I'm working on a moon here, just doing splatters, and it's really giving some dimension to it. And I used a bunch of alcohol ink at a fraction of the cost, and I think that it turned out really well. So I hope this helps, and you're only limited to your imagination and the color wheel. So have fun, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.
The Guitar Builders Collective is a group of like-minded people from all around the world at different stages of their guitar building journey. You can join us over on our forum to seek advice or share tips on guitar building processes, materials and tools, or just to share your builds. On YouTube, we have a regular podcast of Guitar Building Chat where you can join the live stream or watch back on past episodes. Our Instagram page shares posts of members' builds and links you direct to their accounts. And for those of you on Facebook, we've got a private group that you can join, share and chat along with. The Guitar Builders Collective is a welcome and open space for all, so do pop by and say hi. Now, this show isn't sponsored, so when people are on it, it's just because they've contacted me, because they're interested to be on it, or they're people that I've recently met and enjoyed working with, enjoyed their products. So what I'm going to do now is have a short excerpt of an interview I've done with Ben from Marstronic. Marstronic make things that you can put in your guitars. Their first thing they made was the treble maker, a type of treble bleed. If you don't know what a treble bleed is, that's what I'm going to ask Ben about now. And if you want to find out more about his specific treble bleed and other devices, check out the links in the description to this video. Great. So I thought it might make sense just to start by me asking you, what exactly is a treble bleed and why do you need one?
Well, a treble bleed is basically just there to balance out the sound as you lower the volume. So as you lower the volume on the guitar, the high-end treble sounds get lost due to the capacitance of the cable, capacitance of the pickups and things. So by putting a treble bleed on your volume pot, you maintain those highs as you roll back the volume, which is really, really handy for instance, if you like to control the amount of drive that you've got from your volume rather than turning pedals on and off all the time. So if you just got one amp setting high gain, you can roll back the volume and get quite a clean sound that's quite natural sounding.
And you're saying that can be affected by all the different things in your guitar, so the pickups and even the cable to the amp.
Yeah, the cable is the biggest factor, but there's also capacitance on the pickups as well. It's harder to measure with a meter because you've got the inductance there as well. But the capacitance of the cable is the major factor. Yeah. So depending on the length of your cable, you'd pick a different size capacitor generally. Great.
And then can you explain what the technical side of why you have in your Terrible Bleed kit resistors and capacitors, and also the resistors fit in different ways?
Yeah. So when I came to designing the Troublemaker, I didn't really know that much about treble bleeds. So I did all the research on it. I've got a guitar that I was stripping down and upgrading the electronics. So I wanted a treble bleed, but then I saw all these options. You've got just putting a capacitor in, which supposedly sounded really brash, and then putting a resistor in series is one option, which is quite a subtle sound, and then one in parallel is another sound which affects the taper of your volume pot as you roll back differently as well, or a combination of both. And I thought, there's all these different options. I want to try them all, so I'll make a way to try them all out. So I made my first one with just the options to switch in the two different resistors and made them variable resistors. And I picked values that let you pick the whole range that manufacturers use. And I think as well, if you have a treble bleed set up if it comes with the guitar you've got, or if a guitar builder's built you the guitar, they're not going to use your same cables or your entire gear set up to plug into to test out the sound, and then they're doing it to their own ears, aren't they, at the end of the day? And they might be clipping in and out different resistors and capacitors. So it made sense to me to put something together that lets you, when you've got your guitar at home, plug into your own gear and just tweak it a little bit, even if it's set up to a standard values that, say, for instance, like the Kinman setup or the Duncan setup, and then you can tweak it a little bit from there. Then you've got the full freedom, haven't you, to find your own sound that you're happy with, because that's what it comes down to end of the day.
So potentially, if you were someone that played a lot but then upgraded or changed your amp, you'd suggest possibly changing the setup then, or is it not necessarily about the amp? It's more about the pickups and the cable.
It's more about the pickups and the cable, but then again, if you're changing the amp, it'll have a different gain structure when it's running at really hot. So it might vary anyway, because our ears pick up sound so differently to what's actually there in the room. You can, we hear bass and treble completely different depending how loud they are, don't they?
And if we're back to what you're saying about using it to drive the gain on the amp, then that is specific to the amp.
Yeah, that's it. And I think the results from it so far have been really, really good. From what people have said, they really enjoy using it. And there's a few videos online of people using it and actually using it just for that, to control how much gain they're putting in. It sounds nice and flat, so it's nice flat response. So I'm quite happy with them so far.
Now, I've actually got a longer version of that video which is coming out this weekend, so look out for the link in the description for this. In it, we talk a bit more about how the concept came around for Marstronic, and I'll give you a bit more insight into how his particular treble bleed works. But if you want to see a great demo, I've actually put in this description a video from Ferrotone Studios, who have done, I think, a really great example of how the treble bleed works. It's hard to capture things like that on a camera when you're watching back potentially on your iPhone with headphones in, but it does a really great job. And while we're talking about the electronics, I'm going to hand over to John from Blue Tone Music.
Hi there, my name is John Hicks, and I have about 3 minutes to tell you how series and parallel pickup switching works on an electric guitar. To do that, I'm going to use my lovely Epiphone Emperor Swingster. To start with, Most humbucker guitars that don't have the ability to switch between parallel and series will come in a default parallel mode. What that means is that the signal path is straight into the pickup, both coils activated, and the resultant signal is from both coils being activated on the humbucker. And of course, on a guitar like this with two of these humbuckers, you've got the choice of the neck, the bridge, as well as a combination of the two. Now where this guitar comes into play is that I have the option to switch between parallel and series. In fact, the default position of this particular guitar is in series mode. So to activate either way, I have to use the tone pots, which are push pulls. Okay, so to get what is ordinarily the standard parallel position on any other dual humbucker guitar like a Les Paul or 335 and so forth, to get that I have to pull out my tone pots. You can see they're pulled out there. So to go to the series position, I have to push those down. So what I'm doing with that is now I am taking the signal path, and what's going on is that it's treating both coils of the humbucker as two single coils. So if you like, the signal's going into one single coil and then it's going into the next single coil, and then it's following on the signal path rather than simultaneously working together as a humbucker does. What does that give me? Well, that gives me a lower output tone, but it should give me a brighter tone. So a lower output signal, brighter tone. So this is what it sounds like with the neck position. So that's in series mode, and it's a lot brighter. If I switch that back into parallel, you can hear there's more distortion taking place because I'm pushing the amp harder with a higher level of signal, but the sound is a bit darker. So with a parallel tone, you get a darker tone, but a higher output, and in series mode, you get a lower output, but a brighter tone. I hope you found the video helpful, and hope to see you again on the next one. Bye for now.
I'm Shane Spiel, and I made a guitar out of a pickaxe. Seriously, it's an antique pickaxe. I got it at a flea market for $5. It's got 3 strings and you play it with a slide. Here's how I did it. All right, so we're gonna build the pickaxe guitar. I've got it laid out here, and I even got my parts ready. I have this chrome 3-string hardtail bridge. It looks like a Strat bridge, but it's for only 3 strings. I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna take a wood rasp and flatten where that's gonna go. Secured the hardtail bridge in there, and I got the tuners in. It ain't pretty on the back, but nobody's supposed to see the back, because if you take a look there, yeah, I made a space for the tuners. I have a bridge right here. I'll put the pickup in, our jack. I'm going to take a Strat jack plate. This is also cbgiddy.com. I'm going to make it upside down, and I may put it like here or somewhere on the side where you can't see it. See this bolt? This is going to be my nut. Right there. String tension will hold it. It is called the Giddy Bucker, and usually it is made flat to go on top of a cigar box guitar, and he has a whole mounting system. Well, I've got this pickaxe handle, so I'm trying to figure out how is this going to stay on here, and I think I have the solution. Duct tape! There we go. What I'm doing is hardwiring this CB Giddy Bucker pickup to a guitar jack. No volume knob, nothing. It's just straight to a guitar jack. Simple as that. I like my builds to be simple. I'm not a big electronics person. All I need to do is plug this sucker into an amp and go. All right, here's the pickup. This is so quick and dirty, but it will work. I'm gonna use some staples to hold the wire down, but other than that, that's all you need. I'm going to play this instrument with a slide, but I kind of need to know where to go. So I have this. This is a fretting template from cbgiddy.com, and it's nice and flexible, and I can put it on here and just trace the lines. I use my wood burning pen to burn in the fret lines for my pickaxe guitar. For dot markers, I have these little carpet tacks. I love this hammer. This is kind of a common thing when you're building your own homemade instruments. I need to take it apart and fix a few things. I made a mistake. I didn't put the bridge on at 23 inches. It's supposed to go from the nut to the bridge, 23 inches. I was short. Why was I short? Because I was spending too much time worrying about filming for the TikTok than I was building the instrument. All right, we're still tweaking the pickaxe guitar. I swapped the tuners out for these CB Giddy Tombstone tuners. They're sealed tuners, and they just sit in this guitar a little better than the original economy tuners that I used. Also swapped out the nut. Instead of using a bolt as a nut, I have this. This is a scrap piece of corian that a friend of mine got from a cabinet maker, and this stuff is like bone. So I made a corian nut right there, and it's super gluing right now. I'll slot it and then restring it once that super glue's dry. Oh yeah, it's strung up.
Well, that was the awesome Shane Spiel. I love the things he comes up with, the way he talks about it on his channel. Again, links below. You can find out about other weird instruments. In fact, he has a museum full of them. And then we ended up with Bill from Bulgarian Evolution. Bill has been someone that's been commenting on my YouTube channel for ages and was very keen to take part. And as I said earlier, if you're keen, if you've got an idea, get in contact. Anyway, don't forget, you can support this program, you can support me by sharing this show. Share it in your forums, share it on your feed. The more people that know about it, the better it's going to become. Don't forget, if you want to leave a comment for any of the contributors, you can leave one in this video, but in the descriptions I've got links to all of their own channels, their own social medias, and do go and say hi over there from me. Don't forget the playlist link, which will have the link to the next episode. At the moment, they're coming out every 2 weeks. If we get more contributors, I might have to accelerate that. But obviously it takes me quite a bit of time to edit them together. Don't forget, another way you can support me to do that is through super thanks, or maybe buying some Luthiers Lunch Break merch. But honestly, just a thumbs up and a hello is all I really need. It's just nice to know people are out there. This is all about building the community. It's about sharing ideas. It's about inspiring creativity. And it's about filling up your mundane lunch breaks. So until next time, happy strumming.